Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are looking into the abyss.
Now, this is a very dramatic start.
It feels dramatic, though, doesn't it? I mean, I'm talking about that very specific, soul-crushing moment. You know the one. You sit down to do the work. It could be the next great American novel, sure. But it could also be a quarterly strategy deck for your boss, or, I don't know, a toast for your best friend's wedding.
Or just a really difficult email to a client you've been putting off.
Exactly. You sit down, you put your hands on the keyboard, and just nothing.
The blink.
The blinking cursor. The blank page. It is the great universal equalizer. I honestly don't care how smart you are, how much experience you have. The blank page is undefeated. It's terrifying.
It really is. It's the silence before the noise. And honestly, I think most people just stop there. They throw their hands up and say, well, I have writer's block, and they walk away to get a coffee or scroll on their phone.
Right. They treat it like a weather condition. It's raining, can't go outside, I'm blocked, can't write.
Exactly. But today, we're not just going to commiserate about how hard it is. We're going to dismantle it. We're doing a deep dive into this really extensive and, frankly, brilliant toolkit provided by Diane Callahan, who a lot of people know as the quotidian writer.
Yeah.
She's compiled a list she calls 17 Cures for Writer's Block.
And what I absolutely loved about Callahan's approach, why I really wanted to cover this specific source material, is that she doesn't treat writer's block as some kind of spiritual failing.
No. Wow.
She doesn't tell you to go pray to the muses or wait for inspiration to strike you like lightning.
No, she treats it like a mechanic treating a car.
Yeah.
It's so practical. I mean, if your car won't start, you don't just sit there and pray for it to work.
Yeah.
You check the starter, you check the battery, you check the fuel line.
You diagnose the problem.
You diagnose it. And Callahan argues that writer's block is actually a lazy term. It's this big sloppy blanket label we just slap on top of 3 very different, very specific cognitive malfunctions.
This was a huge unlock for me, reading through the material, a total game changer. Because usually I just say, I'm stuck, that's it. But Callahan says, no, you aren't just stuck. You are most likely suffering from one of 3 specific pathologies.
And that's the key.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know which one you have, you're going to use the wrong cure.
Yeah.
It's like trying to fix a flat tire by changing the oil. It's wasted effort.
Okay, so let's break these 3 down before we even get to this, because I have a feeling, a very strong, I suffer from all 3, possibly at the same time on a bed.
I think we all do. So the first one she identifies is perfection paralysis.
Oh, I know this one intimately.
Yeah, this is your inner critic on like a mega dose of steroids. This is the writer who writes one sentence, reads it, hates it, deletes it, writes it again, but slightly different, deletes it again. They're just completely paralyzed by the gap between the taste they have. They know what good writing looks like. They appreciate it.
Right, they have good taste.
And let's be honest, the garbage they feel like they are currently producing on the page.
It's the fear that by writing the idea down, you're actually going to ruin it. In your head, the idea is perfect. It's a masterpiece. It practically glows. But as soon as you type it, it becomes clunky and awkward and just stupid.
And so you just stop.
You stop. You protect the perfect imaginary version of the idea by never actually writing it down.
Exactly. So that's diagnosis number 1. The second one she calls foggy vision. This one's much more structural.
This is the classic what happens next problem.
Precisely. You aren't afraid the writing is bad. You literally cannot see the path forward. You have a scene where the characters enter the castle and, you have a scene later where they have to kill the dragon. But how do they get from the main gate to the deep, dark dungeon? Just a fog.
It's a blank space on the map.
It is. You're missing the puzzle pieces, so you just stop building. It's not an emotional block, really.
It feels more logistical, more of a puzzle problem.
It is. But the result is exactly the same. You stop writing. And then there's the third one. This one feels the most damning somehow.
Boredom.
Boredom.
It sounds so childish when you say it out loud, doesn't it? I'm bored. It sounds like something my kid says on a rainy Saturday afternoon.
It does, but for a writer, it is absolutely lethal. It means the initial spark, that flash of excitement that made you start the project, is just gone. Projects become a chore. It's homework.
And here's the brutal truth that Callahan points out, and it stings a little.
It does.
If you were bored writing it, the reader is going to be 10 times more bored reading it. You cannot fake enthusiasm on the page. Humans are incredibly good at detecting when the person speaking to them or writing to them just doesn't care.
It bleeds through the words. It's unmistakable.
So, okay, we have our 3 diagnoses: perfection paralysis, foggy vision, and boredom. Our mission today is to take these 17 cures from Callahan's work and map them to these specific problems.
We want to turn this from a mystical, scary art form into a solvable engineering problem.
I love that, an engineering problem. We want to get you from stuck to flow.
And we should probably start where all writing starts, which isn't with writing at all. It's with input. Callahan calls this first section the input antidote. This is all about consumption as fuel.
This is our section 1. And I have to be honest with you, when I first read other people's stuff as cure number 1, I kind of rolled my eyes.
Yeah, I get that.
I thought, okay, thanks for the advice, Captain Obvious. To write better, I should read.
Yeah.
It felt like telling a chef to eat food. Like, duh.
It really does sound like the most standard advice you get in every creative writing 101 class writers read. But Callahan isn't telling you to just read for pleasure here. She's talking about reading as a tactical calibration of your brain.
Right, she goes deeper. She mentions revisiting childhood favorites or authors you really admire to remind yourself why you fell in love with storytelling in the first place. But then she pivots to something she calls the ego. And then, this is pure genius.
It is my absolute favorite hack in the entire because it addresses perfection paralysis so directly. The instruction is simple. Go find a book that is, put it bluntly, bad.
Not your particular taste, but actually objectively bad.
Right. Cliche. Poorly plotted, full of dialogue that makes you physically cringe, go to the bargain bin at the bookstore, or find that one bestseller that everyone seems to hate but somehow sold 1 million copies anyway.
But isn't that a little, I don't know, mean or arrogant? To go looking for bad art just to feel superior?
I mean, maybe a little, but it's necessary. Think about it. When you have perfection paralysis, who are you comparing yourself to? You're comparing your messy, horrible first draft to The Great Gatsby.
Or whatever your personal master is, yeah.
You're comparing your unpolished, half-formed thoughts to Hemingway or Toni Morrison. That is a losing battle every single time. You are comparing your chaotic insides to their polished, finished outsides.
That's a really good point. So you read the bad book to remind yourself, hey, this got published, an editor signed off on this, someone paid actual money for this. If they can get this across the finish line, I can definitely write my stupid chapter 3.
It shatters the pedestal you've put published author on. It reminds you that the standard for finished is not perfect, it's just done.
Which is so much more achievable.
So much more. But Callahan adds a crucial layer of homework to this. You don't just read the book and feel smugly superior. You have to actively analyze why it's bad.
This is the review step she talks about.
Yeah. She suggests highlighting specific lines that just don't work, taking photos with your phone of pages where the pacing drags to a halt, and then at the end, writing a little review just for yourself.
So if you're writing fiction, you'd ask yourself, okay, this dialogue feels really wooden. Why? Is it because it's too formal? Is there no subtext at all?
Precisely. And this is the part that turns it from consumption into actual work. You have to ask yourself, how would I fix it?
Ah, okay. So you're not just a critic anymore.
That's the pivot point. You stop being a passive consumer and you start being an active craftsman. You rewrite that bad line of dialogue in your head. Suddenly your brain switches from I can't write mode to I can fix this mode. And once you're in fixing mode, you can apply that same energy to your own work.
It's like watching a really bad carpenter try to build a table. You might think, well, I'm not a master craftsman, but even I know not to put the legs on upside down.
And that tiny sliver of confidence is usually enough to get you back to the keyboard. It just lowers the stakes from genius to competent.
Okay, so jumping all the way to the end of Callahan's list for a second, because it fits so perfectly here. Cure number 17.
Yes, cure number 17 is simply this.
This meaning what we're doing right now, this conversation.
Consuming advice about writing. The source straight up acknowledges that listening to a deep dive about writer's block is, in itself, one of the cures.
That's pretty meta, but you know what? It works. I feel better just talking about it.
Of course. Callahan points out that sometimes you need to get out of the story you're writing and get into the mindset of the craft. When you're stuck deep inside your story, you feel totally alone with your problem. But when you consume advice, you suddenly enter a community. You realize everyone struggles.
You're not the only one.
Never. She lists some specific resources that are basically gold standard. Writing Tools by Roy Peter Clark is a huge one. It's just packed with these tiny, applicable tips.
She also mentions the Fiction University blog, which is run by Janice Hardy, and the Writing Excuses podcast, fantastic for anyone short on time because their episodes are super short, like 15 minutes.
And for people who just want a massive fire hose of ideas, there's a book called 52 Ways to Get Unstuck by Chris Mandeville.
But the key here isn't just to hoard advice, right? I think a lot of us do that. We collect writing books, subscribe to newsletters, but we never actually write.
That's the trap. The goal is to shift your psychology. Callahan quotes the novelist Erica Jong, who said something that just floored me. She said, all writing problems are psychological problems.
Wow. That is such a heavy quote. All writing problems are psychological.
Think about it. Jong says blocks usually stem from the fear of being judged. If you imagine the whole world listening in, critiquing every single word as you type it, you'll never write a single line. Consuming advice helps you realize that every single writer, Stephen King down to the person listening to this right now, struggles with this exact same fear.
You aren't broken.
You're just a writer. It comes with the territory.
So, okay, input helps us get the gears turning. It seems especially useful for that perfection paralysis. But what about when the problem is more structural? What if you have foggy vision and you don't know how to get from chapter 1 to chapter?
This leads us perfectly into section 2, breaking the linear chain. This is where Callahan offers some tactical structural shift that I think are brilliant because they directly challenge the way most of us were taught to write in school.
Oh, for sure. In school, it's always outline, intro, body paragraph 1, body paragraph, very, very A to B.
Right. And for a lot of creative people, that's paralyzing. Which brings us to cure number 4, write in pieces. I like to call this the jigsaw method.
Callahan is really open about this. She says her brain just hates writing in sequential order, so her advice is to just barf out her words, not mine. The juicy bits first.
I can definitely relate to barfing out ideas. It feels like that sometimes.
It's a vivid image, isn't it? But the strategy is simple. Write the cool stuff, the tense conversations, the big emotional, the awesome action sequences. Just forget about how you get there for now. Just write the scenes you were actually...
Okay, but doesn't that just leave you with a completely disjointed mess? If I have 5 random disconnected scenes, I don't have a book. I have like a scrapbook.
You have islands. You have a collection of islands in an ocean of fog. And here is the psychological trick. Building a bridge between 2 islands is infinitely easier and less intimidating than staring into an endless ocean and trying to build an entire scratch.
Huh, I never thought of it that way.
When you have a start point, an island, and an end point, another island you wrote that happens later, writing the middle part just becomes a task of filling the...
That takes so much pressure off.
Yeah.
You aren't creating from nothing. You're just connecting the dots you've already made.
Exactly. She compares it to doing a jigsaw puzzle. You don't do a puzzle from the top left corner to the bottom right corner in perfect rows. That would be insane.
Right, you find all the edge pieces first, you find the corners.
You group all the blue pieces together for the sky. You build the little red barn over on the side. The more of these little clusters you connect anywhere on the board, the clearer the big picture becomes and the easier it is.
Okay, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. What if you can't even write the juicy bits? What if the idea is so stuck in your head you can't even get it out? It's just vague, a feeling.
Okay, so for that, you need cure number 6, summarize. She calls this the movie script approach.
This is for when the idea is like a hamster on a wheel in your head, right? Just spinning and spinning, but going nowhere.
Precisely. You have a vague notion in your head, like the protagonist discovers a terrible betrayal, but you can't write the dialogue. You don't know where they're standing or what the room looks like. So she says, stop trying to write prose. Forget about pretty sentences.
But what do you do instead?
Just write a play-by-play summary of the scene as if you are watching a movie and describing it to a friend.
So like, he walks in the door, he sees the letter on the table, he picks it up, he cries. That's simple.
Almost. But you have to include the emotion. He walks in, totally exhausted, expecting to see his wife, but she's not there. He sees the letter on the table. He feels a sudden cold pit in his stomach, like the floor just dropped out from under him.
I see. So it's not just action, it's emotional beats.
It is. And the magic of this cure is that the act of summarizing inevitably forces you to invent details that weren't there when the idea was just floating vaguely in your head.
Because you have to commit to something. In your head, the room can be a vague, blurry room. But in a summary, you have to say, he walked into the kitchen and boom, now you have a kitchen. There are counters, a sink, maybe a window.
Exactly. It makes the scene visualizable. It makes it concrete. And once you can see it, you can write it. It grounds the abstract idea in a physical reality.
Now, what about when you are totally, completely blank? You don't know where the story is going or the pacing is dragging. You feel like nothing is happening. You have foggy vision, but you don't even have the islands to build bridges between. You're just lost in the fog.
Then you need cure number 5, make a list. But this is not just any list. This is a very specific structured exercise.
This is the one with the 20 minutes, 10 items.
That's the one. You write down a very specific question at the top of the page. It could be something big like, why does he enter the tournament? Or something small and immediate like, what happens next?
And you set a timer for 20 minutes.
And you force yourself, and I mean force yourself, to list 10 possible answers.
Okay, here's my beef with this. Why 10? 10 seems like such a lot. I feel like if I come up with 3 good ideas, I'm good to go. Yeah. Why force myself all the way to 10? It feels arbitrary.
It's not arbitrary at all. It's actually like evolutionary because your first 3 ideas are almost always garbage.
Out. That's harsh.
No, it's true. The first 3 ideas are what Callahan calls the download. They are the cliches your brain has stored from every single movie you've ever seen and every book you've ever read. Let's say your question is, how does he escape the lock?
Okay.
Answer 1, he picks the lock. Answer 2, he kicks the door down. Answer 3, he climbs out the window.
Okay, yeah, those are boring. They're efficient, sure, but super, super boring.
Right. And if you stop there, you write a boring, predictable scene. Now, ideas 4 through 7 are where it gets really hard. You start sweating. You've used up all the obvious answers, so now you have to stretch. This is where you start looking at the ceiling tiles and checking your phone for distractions.
The discomfort.
Totally. But if you force yourself to keep going, if you're disciplined and you stick to the rule of 10, something really interesting happens around number 8.
Your brain gets desperate.
Exactly. It gets desperate. It stops trying to be logical and correct, and it just starts trying to be creative to fill the damn quota. And this is where Callahan says the crazy comes in.
She gives some pretty wild examples here in the source material.
She does. Like for what happens next, one of her answers is the mother kills the daughter. Another one is the main character cuts off his own finger.
Which sounds completely absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, you aren't actually going to put that in the book, are you?
Probably not.
Maybe not.
But the act of just writing down on the page, he cuts off his own finger, it breaks the polite linear pattern of thinking. It completely jars you out of the rut.
So maybe he doesn't actually cut off his finger.
Maybe he has to leave something important behind. Maybe he has to sacrifice a cherished memory or a body part to the magical trap that's holding. It pushes the idea.
It moves the needle from cliche to unexpected.
That's it. The crazy idea, number 9 or 10 on your list, usually hides the seed of the truly brilliant idea. But you will never, ever get to the brilliant. Let yourself stop it. You have to wade through the sewage of your own cliche.
That is a terrible metaphor, but I completely agree with it.
I try.
Okay, so let's move on to section 3. This is immersion and research, because sometimes the well is just dry. You aren't stuck because of fear or a structural problem. You're stuck because you literally don't know enough about the world you're trying to write about.
Right. Deepening the well. This is crucial. Here, number 10 is research relevant top, but, and this is a very, very big but, she warns about the procrastination trap.
Oh, the dreaded research rabbit hole. I'm ashamed to admit how many hours I've spent researching, say, medieval castle toilets instead of actually writing my story.
It feels like work, though. That's the insidious thing about it.
It feels productive, but it's actually just sophisticated avoidance. We all do it. So Callahan suggests what she calls the controlled rabbit hole. You have to set boundaries.
Set a timer.
You set a timer. 2 hours, maybe 3. And for that time, you open as many tabs as you want. You go absolutely wild. You fall down the Wikipedia hole.
But you have to produce something at the end of it, right? You can't just passively read for 2 hours.
No, you can't. You must summarize the useful information you find into bullet points, and you should organize them by subtopic. But here is the expert twist that I think separates the amateurs from the pros. You have to look for details that can be filtered through a specific character's lens.
Okay, can you explain that a little more? What does that mean?
She gives this fantastic example of a character who is starving. A beginner writer might just write, he was really hungry.
Right, not very compelling.
No. So you, the writer, go and research the physical and mental effects of starvation. You learn all sorts of clinical facts. You learn that, for example, starvation causes hallucination. Okay, that's an interesting clinical fact.
But it's not a story yet.
It's not a story. The story comes when you ask the next question. What specifically would this particular character hallucinate about?
Oh, I see. Okay, so if he's a disgraced knight who betrayed his king, maybe he hallucinates a grand banquet with the king who is forgiving him.
Yes. Or if he's a father who tragically lost his young child, maybe he hallucinates the child appearing and offering him a piece of bread.
Wow. Okay.
See, now the research isn't just dry data you're shoehorning in. It gives you specific, emotional, character-driven image. You aren't writing about the concept of starvation. You're writing about his specific personal starvation.
That is such a powerful shift in perspective. It turns facts into narrative fuel.
It does. And related to this is cure number 3, imitate your hero. She calls this wearing the style jacket.
This one is for when you're struggling with a specific type of scene, right? Like, let's say you need to write a big action, but yours just feels like a boring list of instructions. He punched, she ducked, he kicked.
Right. There's no rhythm, no energy. So you find an author who writes incredible action scene, maybe someone like Lee Childs or Brendan Sanderson. You find one of their best fight scenes and you analyze it. You break it down. Do they use short, punchy sentences? Do they focus on the sound of the fight, the feeling of pain, the smell of blood?
And then what? You just copy.
You write your scene, but you pretend to be that author. You wear their style like a well-fitted jacket.
But isn't that just plagiarism? Or at the very least, isn't that going to sound really derivative?
It's not plagiarism because you are writing your characters and your plot. It's mimicry, but for the sake of learning cadence and rhythm. It's like a young guitarist learning to play a classic solo by listening to Jimi Hendrix over and over.
They aren't going to become Jimi Hendrix.
No, but they learn how he bends the strings. They internalize his phrasing. It gets you out of your own head, your own bad habits, and into a rhythm that you know already works. It's like using training wheels for tone.
And I guess eventually you take the training wheel.
Exactly. Usually, halfway through the scene, you forget you're even imitating them and you just start writing like yourself again. but you're a better version of yourself because you've absorbed some of their technique.
Okay, so that's all great for foggy vision and not knowing enough. But what if the problem is simpler and more soul-crushing? What if you are just bored? We diagnosed boredom as one of the 3 root causes.
Which brings us to section 4, shaking up the narrative.
If the writer is bored, the reader will be bored.
It is an iron law, guarantee. If you are sitting there typing a scene and thinking to yourself, blah, 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 and then this happens, the reader is absolutely going to skim that part. So you need cure number 7, surprise yourself.
I love this one. The idea is, if I don't know what's coming next, neither will the reader.
Exactly. Callahan suggests revealing a secret. Dig into your character's backstory. Maybe that pious religious figure in your story was once a militant atheist. Maybe that stoic tough guy character secretly harbors a massive, unrequited crush on the local baker.
That immediately adds layers and tension. Or her other piece of advice, disrupt. This is such practical, actionable advice if a scene between 2 people is dragging on and feels flat.
Add a third character, out of nowhere.
A nosy neighbor who interrupts a private conversation, a messenger who bursts in with terrible news, a dog that runs in and throws up on the expensive carpet.
Right. Anything to break the static. Or you can change the setting drastically. The example Callahan uses in the source is, well, it's memorable.
I think I know.
She suggests taking a smexy time scene, a typical romance scene, and instead of a bedroom with candles, you put it in a cemetery.
A cemetery.
At night. And then you make it go wrong. Maybe they get caught or they get spooked or it's just really uncomfortable and not romantic at all.
That changes the entire dynamic of the scene completely.
It adds conflict, it can add dark humor, it adds texture. Suddenly, it's not just a generic love scene, it's a scene about discomfort, logistics, maybe even disrespect. That is so much more interesting to write and to read than a standard candles and rose petals scene.
It wakes you, the writer, up.
And to help set the mood for these new surprising scenes, we have cure number 14, use music.
But she's very, very specific about how to do this. This isn't just putting on a generic playlist. I usually put on one of those lo-fi beats to study to playlists when I work.
She argues against that. She suggests choosing one song that perfectly matches the scene's core emotion and playing it up on repeat.
On a loop, just the same song over and over.
Yes. For an action scene, maybe he's a pirate from the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack. For a bittersweet goodbye, maybe it's Happy by Marina and the Diamonds.
But why the repetition? Won't that just get incredibly annoying after a while?
It creates a trance. If you listen to a long playlist, every 3 or 4 minutes, your brain has to subconsciously adjust to a new tempo, a new voice, new lyrics. It breaks your concentration, even if you don't notice it. But if you listen to one song on a loop, after about the 3rd or 4th listen, the song just disappears into the background.
It becomes like emotional wallpaper.
That's a perfect way to put it. It holds the emotional note of the scene steady while you work inside it. It basically puts you in a focused bubble.
I can actually see that working. I'm going to try that.
Okay, so we've covered mental hacks, we've covered structural hack, but sometimes you just need to get out of your chair. Which brings us to section 5, environmental and physical hack.
The out-of-head cure. And honestly, this is where the advice goes from practical to borderline insane, and I mean that in the best way possible.
I think you're talking about the bathtub.
I am 100% talking about cure number 12, change your environment. Now look, going to a coffee shop, fine, I get it. Going to the library, a classic for... Callahan even says something poetic about feeling the energy of being surrounded by others who have agonized over sentence. I like.
But then she suggests simulation.
Pretend there is a power outage right by candlelight in the bathtub. I mean, come on.
I know it sounds completely ridiculous, but have you ever actually tried something like that?
I can't say I've ever taken my laptop into the tub with me, no. That seems like a bad idea.
Well, okay, maybe don't take the laptop. Use a waterproof notebook.
Yeah.
But think about the sensory experience of a bath. It's usually full of white noise from a fan. It's got tiled surfaces. It's echoey. It is completely removed from your office, your desk, your piles of bills, your messy living room.
It's like a sensory deprivation chamber.
It is. And the candlelight. It forces folk. You literally can't look around the room and get distracted by other things because you can't see the room. All you can see is the page in front of you. It adds this sense of urgency and high drama to the simple act of writing.
I suppose if you're writing a murder mystery or gothic romance, that could really sit...
It signals to your brain on a very deep level. The rules have changed. This is not normal work. And that is the core of all these environmental cures. Writer's block often lives in your desk chair. You sit in that specific chair and your brain goes, yes, this is the place where we feel stuck and frustrated.
It's a conditioned response, like Pavlov's dog, but for anxiety and frustration.
Exactly. So you have to break the pattern. And if you can't bring yourself to get in the bathtub, she suggests changing the virtual environment. Change the font.
This one I actually tried after. She says to blow the font up to like size 72.
Or the opposite, make it incredibly tiny.
I tried the huge font method, and it's actually hilarious. You write 3 words, and you've already filled up a page.
The cat sat. Boom. Page 1 is done. Congratulations.
It gives you this completely false but very encouraging sense of velocity. You feel like you're just flying through the manuscript. It basically gamifies the progress bar.
But then there's the flip side, the tiny font method. Make it size 8. Make it so small you can barely read what you just wrote.
Now, why on earth would you do that?
To stop yourself from editing as you go. If you can't clearly see the sentence you just wrote, you can't nitpick the grammar. You can't obsess over whether you should have used a comma or a semicolon. You just have to keep moving forward. It forces you into a flow state because looking back is literally difficult for your eyes to do.
It's just fascinating how much of this is about tricking your own brain. It's not really about the craft of writing. It's about hacking your own neurosis.
That's the big takeaway from all of this. Writing is a mental game. And all these tools, the weird fonts, the bathtub, reading bad books, they're just cheat codes to bypass your own insecurities and get the work done.
Which leads to cure number 15, refresh, the full brain reset.
This one is based on that common phenomenon where the best ideas come when you're trying to fall asleep, right? Or when you're in the shower.
The shower principle, yeah.
You need to replicate that state of relaxed distract. Go for a run, hike a trail, play a sport. Anything that gets your heart racing and completely distracts the conscious, analytical part of your mind.
So you basically tire out the worrier part of your brain so the creator part of your brain can finally get a word in.
That's it perfectly. Your conscious mind is like a loud, micromanaging boss who is constantly shouting orders and criticism. When you go for a long run, that boss is too busy focusing on breathing and not tripping to shout at you. And that's when your subconscious can slip the good ideas through the back door.
And finally, for this sec, cure number 16, live light.
This is the source of all stories. You cannot write from an empty tank. Callahan suggests very specific activity. Go mushroom hunting, take a carpentry class, visit an art exhibit.
So not just go outside, but go do something specific and new.
Because you need new sensory. You need new vocabulary. If you take a carpentry class, you learn words like lathe and grain and varnish. You learn the specific smell of sawdust. You feel the texture of sanded wood.
And then you have to journal about it, right?
Yes. She suggests writing a free verse poem about the experience, just to capture the raw sensory details without the pressure of narrative. You need to collect those raw materials for later. If you just sit in your room for 10 years, your writing will inevitably become gray and life. You need the text of the real world.
Okay, we're in the home stretch now. This is section psychology and confidence. Because deep down, underneath the boredom and the foggy vision, structural issue, writer's block is so often here.
Perfection paralysis comes roaring back, which is why cure number 2 is read your own stuff.
The confidence boost.
This one is a little risky, but it can be incredibly effective. Go back and read an early chapter of your current project or a short story you wrote a while ago that you were genuinely proud of, something you wrote when you were on fire.
The goal, as she says, is to fall in love with yourself again as a writer.
It is. It's to remind yourself, if my past self could write this, my present self can too. It's your own personal proof of concept. You aren't a fraud. You've done this before, and you can do it again.
What if you read the old stuff and it's just bad? I look at stuff I wrote 5 years ago and I just wince. It's embarrassing.
Then revise it. Fix it. If you see a clunky sentence, fix it right there in one sitting. Use that momentum of fixing to propel you into writing just one single new paragraph. It's all about generating forward motion. Even if you feel like you were just polishing a turd, you are working. You're moving.
And what if you need outside help? That brings us to cure number 8. Talk to other writers.
But, and this is a big but, you have to be specific. Do not just call your writer friend and say, I'm stuck, this sucks, I hate everything. That's just whining, and it's not productive.
So what's the right way to ask for help?
You have to ask specific diagnostic questions. In this scene, how can I improve the believability of this plot? Or is my protagonist likable in this chapter? If not, why?
Because specific questions get specific, actionable answers.
They do. And often, and I'm sure you've experienced this, just the act of articulating the problem to a friend forces your own brain to organize the solution. Before they even answer you, you find yourself saying, oh, wait, hang on, I think I know what to do now.
It's the rubber duck debugging method from programming. You explain your broken code line by line to a rubber duck, and in the process of explaining it, you find the bug yourself.
It's exactly that. We also have cure number 11, reflect. This is about journaling about the block itself.
So you're talking yourself through the problem on the page.
Yes. You write, I am stuck right now because I don't know what this room looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now you have a tiny, manageable task. Your task is not write the novel. Your task is write sensory details about the room. You narrow the focus. You identify the specific fear, and you tackle that one small thing.
And related to that, get organized. Cure number 9.
Using tools like Scrivener or OneNote, decluttering your notes and creating clear compartments for scenes, characters, research. It feels like a non-writing task, but often, while you are organizing, you accidentally end up writing.
How so?
You'll be moving a file with a character sketch, and you'll think of a new line of dialogue for them and just jot it down. You think you're just cleaning up your digital files, but you're actually sneaking up on the writing from the side.
And finally, the last, the big one. Cure number 13.
Start a new project. She calls it the palette cleanser.
Okay, this one feels dangerous. Isn't this just giving yourself permission to procrastinate? Oh, I can't finish this hard novel, so I'll just start a fun new screen.
It can be procrastination, absolutely. It's a risk. But if you do it intentionally and with boundaries, it can be a powerful cure. If you are truly deeply burned out on project, give yourself permission to cheat on it for a little while.
But you have stakes low, right?
Very low. Don't start a new epic fantasy trilogy. Write a 4,000-word short story. Write a 50-word piece of microfiction. Write a poem.
Why? What's the psychological benefit?
You need to prove to yourself that you can still finish something. The psychological boost you get from typing the words "the end," even on a tiny, insignificant story, can give you the dopamine hit you need to go back and tackle the big, scary one again. It reminds you that you are closer. You know how to finish.
So let's just do a quick recap. We have input cures, like reading bad books to boost your ego and listening to conversations like this. We have structural cures, like writing the ending first or making crazy lists of 10 possible ideas.
We have environmental cures, like writing in the bathtub or changing your font to size 72. And we have these deep psychological cures, like reading your own best work and talking to friends about specific problems.
It's a massive, massive tool, but I think the most important thing to remember, the thing that ties all of this together, is the final takeaway from the source. It's a quote from the author, Jodi.
And it is the golden rule of writing.
You can always edit a bad page. You can't edit a blank page.
That is it. That is the entire game. Every single one of these 17 cures, whether it's the music, the research, the crazy lists, or the bathtub, is just a trick. It's a device to get you to put something on the page.
Even if it's wrong.
Even if it's wrong. Even if it's out of order. Even if it's a terrible sentence from a list of crazy ideas where the mother kills the daughter.
Just get it down.
Just get it down. Because once it is down on the page, it is clay. You can mold it, shape it, fix it, but until it is down, it is just air. It's nothing.
So here is my final provocative thought for you to leave with today. We mentioned some genuinely weird stuff in this deep dive. Changing your font to size 72, writing by candlelight in a bathtub, writing a detailed review of a terrible book just to feel better about yourself.
Some truly radical experiments.
My question to you is this. Which of these weird cures are you willing to actually try today? Not tomorrow, not next, today. What happens if you stop treating writing as this sacred, serious, fragile thing that has to be perfect from the first word, and you start treating it like a messy, fun, weird experiment?
I think that's when the fear goes away.
Yeah.
When the fear goes away, the flow starts.
So go make a mess. Go write a bad... Keep writing. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Keep writing.